Part 35. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 341. 3 days later, a press conference was held as scheduled in the auditorium of the Hong Kong Police Headquarters building on Weaponry Street. The auditorium, which can accommodate 200 people, was packed. The most indispensable thing in Xinjiang is the media. From Phoenix News, which has an official background, to street gossip magazines, there are no less than dozens of newspapers and periodicals of all sizes. In addition, the news about the kidnapping case does not involve political views, but the moral and legal bottom line that all human beings should abide by. Therefore, even many radical newspapers that usually hold different views from the government have specially sent reporters to report on it. When 3 police officers from the Public Relations Department with bright police stars on their shoulders walked onto the stage, the auditorium instantly rang with the sound of shutters. It took more than 10 seconds for the venue to become quiet again. Dear friends from the media and social luminaries, good afternoon. I am Superintendent Lin Dong of the Public Relations Division of the Hong Kong Police. Now, on behalf of the police, I would like to announce to everyone the details of the 5.4 major kidnapping case. Superintendent Lin Dong spent a full 10 minutes reading the documents in his hand and publishing the details of the kidnapping case. Okay, now it's question time. As soon as he finished speaking, there were like bamboo shoots springing up below. Raising a large arm, Lin Dong smiled and said, "Please ask the lady in the second row, third from the left, to ask a question." A very charming young female reporter took the microphone and stood up and said, "Hello, Mr. Lin, I am a reporter from the new paper. From the briefing just now, we all know that Mr. Su Ming from mainland China was involved in the kidnapping case. It can be said that without Mr. Su Ming, the outcome of this kidnapping case would have been unpredictable, so, what I want to ask is Mr. Su Ming really an ordinary tourist, or a mysterious department in the mainland? A master who was sent to help the Xinjiang police? Well, just like there was a movie called The Bodyguard of Zongnanhai many years ago." There was a burst of low laughter in the audience. It stands to reason that in such a serious situation, this question is a bit funny. However, colleagues in the newspaper industry are familiar with the style of Xinbao. This is a general newspaper for civilians, highly entertaining, and completely reader-oriented. Gossip is always welcome, and this issue actually represents the voice of many ordinary citizens in Xinjiang. Even Superintendent Lin Dong shook his head and smiled helplessly. As far as I know, no, at least our police have not been notified by the central government. As for whether Mr. Su is a master, he is also present. You can ask him to answer you." The microphone was handed to the front row. Su Ming, dressed in formal attire, took the microphone and stood up. He turned around and nodded slightly to the female reporter from the new paper. Then he pretended to be mysterious and said, "Speaking of mysterious masters, there are real masters here." The female reporter from the new paper was stunned. Many reporters present also looked at each other, and even the 3 police officers from the Public Relations Department on the stage were a little curious. Su Ming compared himself to several reporters not far away and said seriously, "Mr. Cha, the former boss of Ming Pao, created a series of magical skills such as the Sunflower Book and the 9-Yang magic technique decades ago. If even I can't, he is a mysterious master, so isn't Ming Pao a martial arts palace? Ming Pao's reporter friends are naturally masters." Several Ming Pao reporters shrugged, as if it was none of my business. The people present also laughed. Although Su Ming did not deny it directly, he gave the answer in a humorous manner. "If you really have a secret skill, please don't hide it from Ming Pao. Our police will definitely hire you as a coach with a high salary." Lin Dong chuckled. "Since Mr. Su mentioned Ming Pao, then I will ask Ming Pao's reporters to ask questions." "Thank you." A middle-aged male reporter wearing glasses from Ming Pao took the microphone and stood up. "First of all, I want to make it clear that I have never practiced the Sunflower Book. The conference room was filled with joy. The kidnapping case was successfully solved. The atmosphere of the press conference was not solemn to begin with, but these humorous questions and answers made everyone feel completely relaxed. After everyone laughed for a while, the male reporter looked serious and said, "I would like to ask Superintendent Lin Dong, those kidnappers are all mainland Chinese, but they are imprisoned in Xinjiang. Does this mean that the police on both sides of the Taiwan Strait will cooperation be further strengthened? Can information sharing be achieved?" Different from Xinbao, Mingbao has always emphasized taste, serious style, and paid great attention to the mainland. Although there were humorous remarks in the past, the questions raised were very sharp. The police were naturally very good at handling this type of questions. They first emphasized the central government's leadership over the SAR government, then highly praised the efficiency of the mainland police, and finally stated that the two sides would work together on the basis of the constitution and various bills of the SAR. Increase cooperation to better serve citizens and fight crime. Next, reporters from Tsingtao Daily, Wen Weipo, Ta Kung Pao and other 5 media asked questions respectively. The Hong Kong police, Su Ming, and the victim Luo Jiaju answered the questions respectively. The real person involved, Miss Luo Jun, due to physical and mental conditions, he was not present, so his father Luo Jiaju answered on his behalf. After the introduction of the question and answer session, the press conference did not end as usual. Lin Dong continued, "Dear friends from the media, I would like to announce 2 related news here. The first news is that the Yangchuan Zoo and Xiangjiang Ocean Park will end. In order to establish a friendly partnership, the 2 giant pandas of Xiangjiang Ocean Park, Yingying and Lele, will arrive at Yangchuan Zoo next month for a 2-month cooperation and exchange exhibition. The so-called friendly partner relationship does not have any mandatory rights and obligations. It is just to fill in the name and web link of the other zoo at the bottom of each website, in the friendly cooperation column. It is not a big deal. If Su Ming is willing, he can basically form such a relationship with all zoos in the country, as long as the other party is a formal institution and has no hatred for killing his father. Su Ming still spent some effort on the exchange and cooperation journey of the giant pandas Yingying and Lele. In fact, the board of directors of Hong Kong Ocean Park could not make the decision on these 2 pandas. In the end, they asked the upper echelons of the SAR government through the police. The government gave the green light and agreed on the same day. This is another opportunity to promote friendship between the mainland and Hong Kong. Su Ming did not expect that the Hong Kong board of directors would make a fuss again. This group of humming capitalists were too black-hearted. They actually showed Su Ming the daily passenger flow of the Panda House. They looked like they were doing business and listed a lot of data tables to show how much income the giant pandas could bring to the ocean park every day. Su Ming almost wanted to point his finger at him and curse. How could a great ocean park lack these small amounts of money? You are so ashamed to ask me for money just for borrowing for 2 months. If I hadn't helped, these 2 pandas might have become disabled cats. You can just wait and cry. You are still hoping to make money from these 2 pandas. You are dreaming big. The people in the ocean park are all elites with Western ideas in their heads. They have carried forward the traditional Chinese culture of clear accounts between brothers to the extreme. They have calculated every expense clearly, even the depreciation of the future life of the pandas. Su Ming thought it was a routine at first, so he posted the algorithm of the Hong Kong Ocean Park in his domestic zoo Q group. As a result, the leaders of zoos in various places in the group were dumbfounded. It was the first time they heard that the life of an animal could be calculated as depreciation. If you think about it carefully, it makes sense. A panda can live for 20 to 30 years. If it goes out for communication for 2 months, its value will be reduced by 1%. But pandas are not machines. Do they still calculate depreciation? In fact, this rental fee is not a lot of money for both parties. Ocean Park cannot get rich with it, and Yang Chuanzu will not become poor without this money. However, the managers of mainland zoos, including Su Ming, are still quite speechless. In the eyes of the West, this is a normal business practice, but in the eyes of Oriental people, it is too petty and too inhumane. Most of the media people present had learned about the panda exchange through various channels in advance. This news did not cause much sensation, and there was a sparse applause. Next, I will announce the special resolution of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region Government. Please stand up. The 3 police officers on the stage stood up first, but the reporters below looked at each other. What special resolution? There was no news in advance. Only Su Ming himself was notified, left his seat, and stood on the first floor of the rostrum waiting. Superintendent Lin Dong read the resolution in a steady voice. After studying and deciding, Mr. Su Ming will be awarded the title of Honorary Citizen of Hong Kong in recognition of his special contribution to Hong Kong. After he finished speaking, there was no applause in the auditorium as expected, and most reporters suspected that they had heard it wrong. Honorary citizen is a local honorary title commonly used in various places. Local governments give it as a kind of encouragement and recognition to outsiders who have made outstanding contributions. As the literal meaning suggests, honorary citizens, in addition to having honor, have the same rights as ordinary citizens. Hong Kong also has this tradition, and it is not uncommon to be awarded honorary citizens. But what surprised the reporters was that the general announcement of honorary citizens in Hong Kong is carried out together with the awarding ceremony on July 1st every year. The time has never changed. It was announced in May, which was the first time. Moreover, most of the so-called honorary citizens are actually not real ordinary citizens. They are either rich or noble, and real ordinary people have almost no chance to get this honor. In other words, the value of this honorary citizen is much higher than the honorary citizen announced as a routine on July 1st every year. It can even be said that this is the first civilian honorary citizen in Hong Kong. After a long time, until the moment Su Ming walked onto the stage, the auditorium erupted in thunderous applause. Obviously, awarding such an honorary title of hero who bravely rescues people is definitely more motivating than awarding it to those so-called wealthy people who have made significant contributions to Hong Kong's economy. What a tragedy, after so long, I am just a civilian, Su Ming thought. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 342. Early the next morning, major local media in Xiangjiang wrote articles one after another. Xinbao, the heart of a chivalrous person, ordinary people can become heroes. It seems that the female reporter has always had a dream of being a master in her heart. Oriental Daily, mainland tourists joined forces with the Xiangjiang police to solve the kidnapping case. The stupid kidnappers fell into the panda pavilion and were ravaged. This is the most entertaining of the current orthodox newspapers in Xiangjiang. If you are familiar with its history, you will know that the main founder of this newspaper is the same as Long Wu, and was even more exaggerated than the Long Wu family back then. So it's not surprising to take the entertainment route. Ming Pao, establishing friendship and deepening cooperation, starting from the table tennis dialogue 30 years ago, started from the Cold War period when China and the United States promoted the normalization of relations through friendly exchanges of table tennis teams, and discussed the current relationship between mainland China and Hong Kong. Even Beidao, can we find a communication route that is not opposed by ordinary people, such as panda diplomacy? Of course, diplomacy is not the right word. Ta Kung Pao, honorary citizen, a victory for the common people, lists the backgrounds and origins of all those who have received honorary citizenship over the past decade, and suggests that future honorary citizens be awarded with more consideration given to ordinary people who truly touched the people of Hong Kong, rather than it becomes a feast for the rich to divide their honors. The Sun published a review article on Knights and Gentlemen, pointing out mercilessly that in modern society, there are too many well-dressed gentlemen, but in times of crisis, there are very few knights who are willing to stand up. Without a brave and upright knight's heart, the so-called gentlemanly demeanor is just a layer of hypocrisy. In addition to serious regular newspapers, as a city with a long history of gossip, Xiangjiang has countless gossip tabloids. The lone animal tamer captures the hotshot policewoman. Madame throws herself into her arms, but the mainlanders are cold and ruthless. Incestuous love between brother and sister, life and death love in gun battles. Going through customs to sleep with you. The trainee policewoman has a crush on the deputy principal and gets into a fight with the cold-faced female superior officer. 3 women fighting for a husband. I am really not a clickbait. The content of the report is vivid and vivid. The time, characters, and events are clear. There are even inner monologues and dialogues of the characters, but there is no direct description of meat scenes. I don't know where I found a lot of blurry photos, and I can't tell who the people in them are. Fortunately, readers of this kind of tabloid article just take it for fun and no one will take it seriously. In order to gain attention, these tabloids dare to write anything except reactionary things. If these reports are true, then Su Ming should not do anything during the past few days in Xiangjiang. It would not be enough to spend 24 hours a day hooking up with girls and having sex with them. In an office building in Causeway Bay, there is a small but quiet cafe. A big fat cat lies lazily on the piano at the door. Under the soft and warm lights, he quietly looks at the people in the shop. Men and women. When Su Ming walked into this cafe, he immediately saw He Baoan sitting alone in the corner in a daze. I didn't expect that Madame, who is usually brave and courageous, would actually like this. Su Ming looked at the environment in the coffee shop. There were cartoon cat stickers everywhere, and said with a smile, "Such a childlike place." Before solving the last case, He Baoan said that if he could successfully solve the case, he would invite Su Ming to drink coffee. Su Ming didn't take it too seriously at the time. Unexpectedly, after the press conference, He Baoan actually called and arranged to meet here. After receiving the call, Su Ming thought about it for a while and finally decided to go. There must be a place of innocence in a woman's heart, even a woman who is almost 30 years old. Sometimes I feel that I am under too much pressure, so I come here to sit for a while, so as not to really turn into a tomboy. He Baoan he waved to the waiter and then asked Su Ming, "What are you drinking?" "I'll treat you. The latte here is very on point. I'm used to drinking tea, but now I can't get used to drinking coffee no matter how delicious it is." "It's just preconceptions," Su Ming shrugged and said with a smile, "Lemonade is ready." "A glass of lemonade with ice, thank you." He Baoan greeted the waiter who came over, and then looked at Su Ming with a half smile. "The man who even wants to snatch my snacks actually drinks lemonade. You are also very. It surprises me. I was really hungry at that time, just like when I bought roast goose legs in the police car. My stomach was tight," Su Ming said with a smile. "Are you hungry now?" He Baoan asked a bit stiffly. After saying this, as if to explain deliberately, he touched his belly and said, "I'm a little hungry. Why don't we finish the coffee? Let's go have a midnight snack." "Madam, your life is really irregular." Su Ming smiled. "I'm living a free single life." He Baoan shrugged. "Are you going or not? I know there is an egg tart shop that has been open for decades. I used to go there to eat it every time I worked overtime. You people from out of town may not be able to find such a decent restaurant. Shop. I want to go too, but it's a pity that my girlfriend is waiting for me in the hotel. As you know, women will be scared when they stay in a hotel alone at night," Su Ming said seemingly casually. He Baoan's expression froze slightly when he heard the word girlfriend. Although he didn't say anything, he couldn't hide his disappointment. He was also a little absent-minded during the rest of the chat. Time passed quickly. The old-fashioned pendulum clock in the cafe struck 10 times. The lemonade in front of Su Ming also ran out. He Baoan did not continue to refill the cup. After paying the bill, the two left the cafe. Walking side by side on the streets of Causeway Bay, the usually cheerful policewoman was very quiet all the way, hardly speaking, as if she was always thinking about something. Su Ming couldn't say anything at this time, so he could only accompany her on the street. He Baoan was a very good woman in all aspects, but every time she smiled at him, Su Ming's mind would naturally emerge, the scene when Nangong ruthlessly rejected Ren Chen, which was a touching determination. As he made more and more money, he had more opportunities to meet all kinds of women, but Su Ming found that what he often thought of in his heart was the bits and pieces of Nangong on campus. "I'm here," he Baoan finally spoke for the first time downstairs of an apartment building. "Nice to meet you, Paul. I never thought that I would meet such an excellent woman like you when I came to Hong Kong this time." "It's an honor." Su Ming nodded and smiled. He Baoan was silent for a moment, and suddenly showed the confident and proud smile she had when she first met her in the police station. She punched Su Ming on the shoulder in a manly manner. "Wow, is this a good guy card?" "This, he, you send me one, I send you one, we're even." Su Ming rubbed his shoulder, which was a little painful from being hit, and said, "Let's go back to accompany your girlfriend. I'm a tough female police officer, not as fragile as you think." He Baoan put one hand on her waist and made a pistol gesture to Su Ming with the other hand, staring fiercely, and said, "Also, I warn you, next time you meet a girl, tell her you have a girlfriend, otherwise, bang." "Definitely," Su Ming laughed, "then I'm really leaving." "Let's go." He Baoan took the initiative to turn around and strode towards the apartment, waving his hand without looking back. After watching He Baoan enter the elevator, Su Ming turned around and left. Walking from the intersection to the road leading to the hotel, Su Ming took out his cell phone and dialed Nangong's number. "Hello, have you finished your coffee?" Nangong's sweet voice came from the other end of the phone. "I told you long ago that I'm used to tea, not coffee," Su Ming said. He. Nangong laughed foolishly. "What are you laughing at? I asked you to book a plane ticket online. Have you booked it?" "Yes, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. The same flight as the one that checked in the Grand Mercure Lion Dragon." "Okay, we'll go home tomorrow." The next night, an Eastern Airlines flight slowly took off from the Hong Kong International Airport and flew to Yangchuan City. Almost at the same time, in a bar in Lan Kwai Fong, two female police officers without uniforms were drinking in a small booth in the bar. There were already several empty bottles on the small table in front of Ho Po Man. Her face was red from drinking, but her eyes were shining. She stared at the policewoman opposite and asked mysteriously, "Abby, what's wrong with me?" The policewoman Abby was drunk by Ho Po Man. She burped and said, "Madam, who said you're not good? You're pretty and pretty. You've become a senior inspector before you're 30. The whole police force treats you like a treasure." "Are you saying I'm old?" Ho Po Man asked with wide eyes. "No way," Abby covered her mouth quickly, "no." "Why is it that he's not moved at all after I confessed like this?" Ho Po Man pointed at her nose and said with wide eyes, "Do you know that this is the first time I've confessed to a boy since I was a child, and I failed? But there's no rule that a girl's confession must be successful. Also, so many police officers confessed to you, didn't you refuse them too?" Abby muttered softly. "Wow, which side are you on?" He Baoan said. "Madam, of course I'm on your side. But Susheng has a girlfriend. Did he lie to you that he's single and then take you to a couple hotel? You'll be happy if he makes it clear. It's good for everyone." Abby is young, but she's quite clear-headed. "Abby, you're really not good at comforting people. You're making me even more unhappy when you say that. Didn't I miss a good man? Then what can I say? Susheng is really a good person." Abby pouted and said. "Anyway, I'm not happy. Let's go dance." He Baoan stood up shakily, took Abby's hand, and was about to walk to the dance floor. Abby still knew He Baoen's usual style very well. She was so scared that she quickly held her down, shook her head like a rattle and said, "No, madam, if you drink like a drunk chicken, people will take advantage of you, and then you will hurt people, which will be very troublesome to deal with. Then you continue to drink with me." He Baoen raised a bottle of wine. "I really can't drink anymore." Abby shook her head with a bitter face, took the bottle and put it back on the table, rolled her eyes and said, "Actually, madam, you are much more serious when you are handling cases on weekdays." "What?" "Speak louder." The music in the bar was a bit deafening, and He Baoen didn't understand Abby's words clearly, so he asked loudly. "I mean," Abby also answered loudly into He Baoen's ear, "Su Sheng is not married. If you show the enthusiasm you usually have when handling cases, maybe you still have a chance. Anyway, he will come to participate in the horse racing at the end of the year." Ah. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 343. As soon as Nangong got on the plane, he put Su Ming's arm in his arms and began to sleep. He slept through the sea and flew over the mountains. The plane landed at the Yangchuan New Airport. After completing the check-in procedures, it was almost arriving. Early morning. The cool breeze outside the airport blew on her body. Nangong shivered and huddled up. Su Ming put a coat on her and stretched out his hand to hail a taxi. "I don't want to be a taxi. Let's walk back." Nangong had enough sleep on the plane, but when he was blown by the cold wind, he became more energetic. "I'm sick. The airport is almost 10 kilometers away from the city, sister. Walking back will be exhausting." Su Ming rolled his eyes and saluted several boxes at his feet. "Also, there are so many luggages. Let's go back, carry it on your back." "I don't care, I don't care, I don't want to go back by car anyway," Nangong said coquettishly, shaking his arm. "Why?" Su Ming didn't understand. It was all in the dark, so far away from the city, and there was a lot of luggage. How could this girl be so crazy? "We been in love for so long, haven't we had enough pressure yet? I just want to go shopping, so at least find a place where I can go shopping. I have never heard of couples going shopping on the national highway in the middle of the night. I have to go to work tomorrow, and I haven't seen you for a long time. I want to stay with you for a while." Nangong pouted and whispered. Hey. Su Ming couldn't stand Nangong's behavior, and was immediately discouraged. He raised his hand and rubbed her head. During this trip to Xiangjiang, the two of them had a substantial relationship. After that night, Nangong became two different creatures from before. He was very attached to Su Ming. Su Ming now felt like he was both his boyfriend and his father. "Feel." The taxi driver had been waiting for a long time. Hearing the conversation between the two of them, he leaned half out of the car window and smiled at Su Ming. "Can't you get in? If a girl wants to be romantic, she also has time. At this point, it's not safe to walk back to the city from the airport until dawn." "Haha, master, let's go." "I won't take the car anymore." Su Ming waved his hand, nodded and smiled apologetically. "Young man, I would like to advise you, don't be stupid. If you walk halfway, you won't be able to walk. It's you who will suffer the loss. I'm thinking about you, and I don't want to earn a few fares from you by taking a taxi. There are so many people." The driver chattered. "Hey, I'm happy to be stupid, and it's an honor to love my girlfriend." Su Ming looked like he was carried away by love. Seeing Su Ming's insistence, the talkative and enthusiastic driver showed a very puzzled expression, shook his head sadly, put into gear and drove towards the couple blocking the car in front of him. Nangong's IQ dropped quickly after she fell in love. Especially when she was with Su Ming, she usually didn't use her brain very much. Whenever something came to her mind, it would come up, and Su Ming let her do it, so that she developed a habit of watching the rental when the car really left. Nangong looked a little regretful. He looked at the pile of luggage at his feet and said distressedly, "Then how are we going to walk back? You can't carry so much luggage. I can't even carry it. It's almost 10 kilometers away." "You really treat me like a cow or a horse," Su Ming said. "Then what should we do?" Nangong glanced at Su Ming cautiously, like a child who made a mistake, and whispered, "How about we take a taxi?" "Are you really willing to take a taxi?" "That's not impossible." "Of course I want to be with you more," Nangong said reluctantly. Su Ming chuckled and said, "Wait here for me and watch your luggage." After saying that, he turned around and walked towards the airport. "Hey, what are you doing?" Nangong asked from behind. "I have a way." Su Ming turned around and warned him uneasily, "Stay here well and don't wander around. Don't be kidnapped by bad guys." "I know, I'm not a child." Watching Su Ming's back running quickly into the airport, Nangong turned around and sat on the largest box, with his legs crossed and stretched forward on the sidewalk, making a comfortable posture, and then wrapped them tightly. The coat on his body had two long sleeves hanging on both sides. He tilted his head slightly and looked at the starry sky under the night sky with a sweet smile on his lips. As a top student in the university who was able to work as an intern at a TV station before graduation, Nangong was only higher than most of his peers in terms of IQ and EQ. It's just that she likes this feeling very much. She feels completely free. She doesn't need to rack her brains for a program like she does on the TV station. She doesn't need to worry about what will happen in the future, let alone disguise herself as a strong woman covered in thorns. Just like this, there is no need to think about anything, quietly waiting for a man to come back. Although this man has all kinds of problems, sometimes he will secretly look at the beautiful woman and drool, sometimes he will laugh at her mercilessly, and even occasionally do some things that are not very good to normal people, but as long as this with the man by his side, Nangong felt very at ease. Not far away, the talkative driver just now had already picked up a couple. In the rear-view mirror, he saw Nangong sitting under the stars, looking like he stepped out of an art movie. He was obviously stunned, then shook his head and smiled. Suddenly I somewhat understood the young boy's decision. The uncle driver was also young. If such a girl came into his life when he was young, no matter what kind of request it was, even if it meant traveling to the end of the world, he would definitely agree without hesitation. "Hey, life is bad," the driver shrugged, started the taxi, and drove away. Su Ming had been gone for about 20 minutes and hadn't come back yet. Nangong was getting a little anxious waiting, so she sent him a WeChat message. "Soon," Su Ming replied, saying that he would be back soon. "Hey, where did you go? You didn't pretend to go to the airport and went for a health check on the way, did you?" "What a health check? You can make one for me later." Su Ming sent back a smiley face, "I'll be back soon." Nangong was about to send a shy expression, when a BMW X5 came roaring in the distance. The four tires made a harsh gripping sound, and it stopped in front of Nangong with a sudden brake. The row of tires next to Nangong was at most 1 meter away from her toes. Nangong subconsciously locked her feet and frowned at the X5 in front of her. The car window slowly lowered, and a handsome face appeared in the driver's seat, greeting Nangong. "Hi, what a coincidence." The man was Huang Fei, a colleague of Nangong TV station, and one of the popular male hosts. Once before, Su Ming invited Nangong to go to the reservoir for a barbecue, and he met him at the gate of Nangong's community. At that time, he drove a new BMW 320 and wanted to pick up Nangong, but he drove too fast and scared Nangong. After Su Ming appeared, he sprayed him with exhaust gas from the Wrangler. "It's you." Nangong was slightly stunned, and then his brows frowned even tighter. He stared at his BMW X5 for a few glances, and thought unhappily that this person was too uncultured. He drove the car so fast every time. Last time it was a residential community, and this time it was an airport. They were all places where people came and went. What if he hit someone? Such a person should not be given a driver's license. Huang Fei saw that Nangong looked at his car more and misunderstood, and his expression suddenly became proud. He stuck half of his head out of the window, put his arms on the car window, and said proudly, "I made a lot of money from investing with my friends some time ago, so I bought a new car for more than 1.2 million. Oh, Nangong responded lightly, retracted his gaze, and looked into the distance absent-mindedly. If there is a ranking of the most lethal words women use to men, the word "oh" will definitely be on the list. Huang Fei coughed awkwardly, posed in a pose that he thought was very handsome, and asked, "Are you waiting for a taxi? I'll take you there and take you for a ride." "No, I'm waiting for my boyfriend," Nangong said expressionlessly. Huang Fei's smile faltered when he heard the word boyfriend. Of course, he clearly remembered the last time at the gate of Nangong's community, that guy drove an exaggerated, at least huge off-road vehicle compared to his BMW 320 at the time, and almost ran over the roof of his car. However, after experiencing that scare, Huang Fei found that off-road vehicles were more manly and more stylish to drive, so after making money, he sold his somewhat effeminate BMW 320 as soon as possible and spent a lot of money to replace this BMW X5 with the standard configuration of local tyrants. Huang Fei was a little hesitant before buying it. Although he had a good family background and had made some money recently, a brand new X5 emptied all his savings, and he had to borrow more than 100,000 yuan from friends. But after driving it, he immediately felt that it was worth the money. As expected, the whole person felt different. The wider vision, the sense of superiority of being high above and overlooking all living beings, and the powerful power system of BMW was even more exciting. Just step on the accelerator, and the violent pushback feeling will come as expected, as if you can take a rocket to outer space in the next second. Even the rate of girls turning back when going to nightclubs has increased a lot. Sometimes he doesn't even need to take the initiative to pick up girls. As long as the car window is rolled down and he stops at the door of any bar, there will definitely be girls dressed up and chatting with him soon. Hearing Nangong talking about her boyfriend, Huang Fei was only slightly startled, and then he snorted naturally. Instead of driving away, he put the car in parking gear and looked around expectantly, looking for the figure of the Wrangler. In front of the X5, the Wrangler worth 400,000 or 500,000 is nothing. This time, I can finally regain the place I had that day. My eyes fell on the exit not far away. Suddenly, there was a commotion, and a large group of people came out. It was not surprising that people came out of the exit. What was strange was that this group of people all turned back and pointed at the exit, and took out their mobile phones to take pictures inside. It seemed that there was something very strange in the airport that attracted their attention. A familiar person, as if sitting in the air, floated out from mid-air, sitting in mid-air, floating outward, and waving to the people around him with a smile. What the hell is that, horse? A few seconds later, after the people at the exit gradually dispersed, Huang Fei could see clearly that the man was not floating at all, but was riding on a tall horse with smooth fur, and there was another horse following behind. The two horses were very majestic and walked out of the airport one after the other. At first glance, it was obvious that they were professional race horses, and they were completely different from the old mixed-haired horses used for taking photos in the park. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 344. Although it was already night, there were still quite a few tourists outside the airport, and there were also many airport staff who gathered around to see the scene. The lion dragon walked gracefully through the crowd and came to Nangong. Su Ming rode on the horse, bowed slightly, stretched out his hand to Nangong, and said with a smile, "Get on the horse, my princess. Nangong's heart was about to be drunk, and she covered her mouth with excitement and couldn't say a word. Wow, the black horse prince. Get on the horse quickly, get on the horse quickly. So romantic. The crowd of onlookers were so excited that they were about to burst. Many people cheered loudly in the crowd, raised their mobile phones above their heads, and stood on tiptoe to take pictures. The lion dragon was a person who liked to be in the spotlight. Being noticed by so many people, it was very proud. It shook its big head in a very showy way, and its black and shiny mane fluttered in the wind. It snorted and sprayed the face of a guy nearby. No one paid attention to the unlucky guy, because the screams had already started. Almost all the young girls present had countless little stars in their eyes, and they covered their mouths and screamed. I don't know why they could still scream loudly even with their mouths covered. However, the boyfriends around them didn't look very good, and they muttered sourly, "What a show-off, it's not a big deal to have a horse, how can others live if you do this? If you are so capable, why don't you go to heaven? How did you bring them out?" Nangong's voice became emphasized, crying and laughing. "I told the shipping company that they don't need to deliver them, I will pick up the goods directly, and the money will be paid." Su Ming turned over and got off the horse, and tied up several large boxes with ropes with his hands and feet, and put them on the back of the big happy horse behind. Revolutionary work is not distinguished between high and low. Originally, it didn't matter which horse carried the ceremony, but Lion Dragon was narrow-minded, while De Kuihuo was a hard-working, obedient, and sunny comrade. Carrying luggage was obviously not as impressive as carrying the male protagonist. If Lion Dragon was asked to carry luggage, it would probably get angry. After Su Ming put the luggage in place, he suddenly hugged Nangong horizontally in his arms without saying anything, and put the extended saddle on Lion Dragon's back. He also rode on it, sitting behind Nangong, wrapping his arms around her waist and holding the reins. With a slight shake of his wrist, Lion Dragon took small steps and walked forward with his head held high. Nangong's body was about to melt, and she leaned in Su Ming's arms, feeling extremely happy. "Everyone, please make way." After the crowd made way, they noticed that there was a brand new BMW X5, blocking the front alone. A man was sitting in the driver's seat, with his mouth wide open, staring at the side in amazement. Why is this guy here? Su Ming had a good memory. He recognized Huang Fei from his horseback at a glance. Nangong didn't even bother to look over there. Her long hair covered half of her face that was leaning on Su Ming's chest. She gently rubbed Su Ming's chest and said in a sweet voice, "Who cares? Let him die. Hold me tight. The comrade driving the BMW, please make way. Don't occupy the road. Everyone, please disperse." An airport staff member came out to direct traffic. Before Huang Fei came to his senses, there were girls in the crowd who were nosy and shouted loudly, "Hey, get out of the way. It's so annoying. It ruins such a romantic atmosphere." Those depressed boyfriends finally found an outlet to vent their anger. They laughed at Huang Fei in the car. A fake BMW met a real BMW. Now he's stupid. Huang Fei came to his senses and put the car in forward gear with a depressed belly. He was about to collapse. What kind of world is this? Two race horses suddenly appeared. Where is the wrangler? Do the guys driving wranglers really have horses? Aren't the guys who shot planes terrorists? Damn, if you are so capable, why don't you fly to the sky? Huang Fei expressed the same feeling as all the male compatriots, and stepped on the accelerator deeply. The BMW X5 roared out of the airport, as if running away, and soon disappeared into the night. He didn't know that Su Ming had decided to buy a helicopter. After a while, maybe he could really fly to the sky. Under the dim street lights, on the marathon rubber runway leading to the city on the side of the road, two horses, one in front and one behind, walked slowly towards the city. The two people on horseback left a long swaying figure on the road. From time to time, cars passed by on the road, all of which slowed down, opened the windows and cast surprised eyes from afar. "Hey, if we do this, it will be bad, and it will affect the traffic," Nangong said while biting her lip. "What's bad? You are so proud of yourself." Su Ming scratched Nangong's face with his fingers. "Hate." Nangong moaned. Now something went wrong. The two of them were not wearing much and were tightly pressed together. When she was so shy, a wild beast immediately awakened behind her and fiercely pushed at the two peach-shaped plump parts. "Hey, hey, I'm going to die, on the main road." Nangong pinched Su Ming's thigh with her backhand, and her face turned red. "Hey, anyway, there is a code to block it, how about we shake it?" Su Ming asked with a shameless face. The shake didn't work. When they were about to enter the city, they were stopped by the traffic police. A young traffic policeman was standing on the roadside with a few people. He saw someone riding a horse and strolling towards the side from a distance. He immediately raised his hand and gestured for them to get off the horse and be inspected. Under normal circumstances, the traffic police would have gone off work at this time. When I walked closer, I found that there was a car accident on the road and the traffic police had rushed to deal with it. "Hey, this car looks familiar, and this person looks familiar too." A cement telephone pole on the roadside was broken in half, and half of it was pressed on the roof of a BMW X5. The BMW X5 looked like it was going to be scrapped. The hood collapsed and was smoking pitifully. Not far away there was an ambulance with its lights flashing. Huang Fei's head was wrapped with gauze and he was blowing into the alcohol testing instrument with a depressed look on his face. "It's you. It's you." Both sides were stunned. "Do you know each other?" The traffic policeman looked at Su Ming and pointed at Huang Fei and asked. "I don't know," Su Ming shook his head quickly. "We are colleagues, but we don't know each other well," Nangong explained while holding back a smile. The traffic policeman looked at the two horses in confusion and said with a straight face, "Okay, let's talk about your problem. What's going on with riding horses in the middle of the night? Is such that?" After listening to the traffic police, he thought for a long time and found that Su Ming did not violate any traffic regulations. First, he did not drive drunk, second, he did not speed, and third, he did not change lanes illegally. The fake BMW was handed over to the police, but there was really nothing the traffic police could do about the real BMW. Su Ming took out the zoo's ID and explained that the two horses were going to the zoo. The traffic police was actually very responsible and called a police car to clear the way for Su Ming. "Oh, you are Deputy Director Su. We have all heard that you have brought glory to our Yangchuan city in Xiangjiang." The responsible traffic policeman first praised Su Ming, and then said, "However, it's not safe to ride on the road after all, don't you think so? If you follow the police car and return to the zoo as soon as possible to avoid causing a disturbance, you are also responsible for your own safety. Do you think this can be done?" Yes, the police comrade is right." Su Ming nodded, then pulled the traffic policeman and asked Huang Feinanu in a low voice, "What's his condition?" "His problem is serious. He was driving under the influence, seriously speeding, and vandalizing public property. According to regulations, he will be detained for 15 days and his driver's license will be revoked. Fortunately, he didn't hit anyone. Aren't you going to intercede for him?" "How can I not? I am a party-spirited person." After entering the city, nothing was said except for attracting the attention of a few people who were up late at night wandering the streets. The police car came to the entrance of the zoo with its lights flashing, startling the two security guards on duty, who thought the zoo was entering. After catching the fugitive, the two security guards breathed a sigh of relief when they saw Su Ming following him leisurely on horseback. It was already early in the morning, and the two horses were temporarily living together with the Cao Mu Ma. The place there was large enough, and they were considered distant relatives anyway, so they were not afraid of any barriers. However, Shivaolong was specifically told not to bully the Caoni Ma, otherwise he would be sprayed miserably. He drove the Wrangler again and sent Nangong and a lot of salutes back to her home. Downstairs, Nangong was carrying a big box and winked at Suming. "Why don't you go up and meet my dad?" Nangong's father, who is the leader of the criminal police team, knew that she would be back tonight and had probably been waiting since the lights in the room were still on. "The king doesn't see the king," Suming raised his head proudly. "Tch, then I'll go up and kiss me." It was past 3 o'clock in the morning when Suming returned to the Feng Shui pavilion. As soon as he opened the door of the water pavilion, a whole nest of animals appeared. There was a splash in the water, and a huge and scary black figure emerged. The overlord python entrenched in the corner of the platform slowly raised its neck. A dozen cats of various sizes in the room woke up immediately after hearing the sound. Meowing, just like small cannonballs, flying at him. There was a buzzing sound, and a long-lost sound came from the top of the head. Nangong was not in Yangchuan City. The personal bodyguard Goza took a vacation and returned to Shuixi to rest. After holding the big and small kitten in his arms and chatting with the animals in the waterside pavilion, Suming couldn't hold it in any longer. He felt sleepy. He climbed to the bedroom on the second floor and fell asleep without even having time to wipe off the hickeys on his face. In the Yangchuan City Deputy Mayor's office, the newly appointed Deputy Mayor Wang Jianxi was convening several economic leaders from the city's Industry and Commerce and Development and Reform Commission for a meeting. Wang Jianxi took over from Vice Mayor Sun, and his main job now is also to focus on the economy. Among the people present, there was also an old friend of Suming. He was Zhou Jin's backer and director. Due to Suming's secret tricks, he and the director became Suming's loyal supporters and supported the zoo in every aspect of their work. After Wang Jianxi came to power, he followed his official career and took the original position of Wang Jianxi. Everyone is invited here to talk about the upcoming economic construction work. Now we are all old comrades and colleagues, so I won't hold any formal meetings. We will just chat in the office. Wang Jianxi put down his teacup with a smile on his face, but the conversation immediately changed. Although the atmosphere is relaxed, our task is very arduous. Last week, the central government issued another document, emphasizing once again the need to transform the economy growth model, and follow the path of scientific development. I went to the province for a meeting, and the provincial leaders also asked us to make good use of our own resources and follow the path of green development. In the past, the extensive growth at the expense of ecological destruction, that absolutely cannot continue. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 345. The leaders of several departments present seem to have some kind of machine installed in their heads. Following the rhythm of Wang Jianxi's words, they kept nodding their heads rhythmically, making humming sounds in their noses, and whispering yes, yes, yes in their mouths. Right. But after Wang Jianxi finished speaking, no one took the initiative to answer the question. Transforming the economic growth model is by no means as simple as talking about it. It affects the whole body. It involves countless entanglements of interests and the coordination of various departments. Every step is extremely difficult. Comrades, I said it from the beginning. Everyone should pay attention to it. Don't think that it is just talk like before. Wang Jianxi took a sip of tea and continued, to use a popular saying, change the development model, the above is serious. This is related to everyone here and the performance evaluation indicators of our entire Yangchuan city. This will be our next step. Work goals for the next year, several years, or even throughout your entire political career. After saying that, he put down the teacup again and looked at everyone in the office with a smile. After a moment of silence, Director he spoke first, Vice Mayor Wang is right. When it comes to green growth, Our city has a natural advantage. Yangchuan City is an ancient capital with a long history and culture, and it is adjacent to the Yangtze River. It is backed by the Qinling Mountains and has a large reservoir with a strategic location. Among other things, the current tourism around the fishery and zoo is very impressive. My point of view is that our city definitely has the potential to vigorously develop tourism. Tourism as a new green economic growth point. What he said to the director is half in agreement with Wang Jianxi, but it cannot be said that he is completely right. There are too many 5A level scenic spots and famous scenic spots in the country, but there are few that can truly provide a city with large-scale economic growth and even become the mainstay of the local economy. Very few. What's more, although Yangchuan City is not a first-class big city, it is still a medium-sized city with a population of millions. The overall economic base is huge, and it cannot be driven by ordinary tourist attractions with tens or hundreds of millions a year. What I said to the director makes sense. Developing tourism, such as Shanghai Disneyland, Huangshan, and Qingdao, can not only provide tax revenue, but also bring about economic prosperity that can boost various industries in the entire region, Wang Jianxi affirmed first. He then added, of course, relying solely on one industry or a few companies is not enough. Deputy Mayor Wang, of course we must implement the provincial instructions, the director of the National Development and Reform Commission said. However, we also have practical difficulties, such as labor-intensive production enterprises. Although there is pollution, the profits and taxes are not high. But it can easily affect the livelihood of hundreds or thousands of people. It is even more difficult for state-owned enterprises. As for high-tech companies, they look better, but most of them have not made any money and have to borrow money from banks first. The city's intention is, of course, not to immediately abolish industry and heavy industry, but to gradually reduce emissions and pollution. At the same time, there will be a tilt in funding and it will no longer continue to support companies with rough development, Wang Jianxi explained. A leader from the local taxation bureau said, in the past few years, I made a lot of money by buying land. In the past 2 years, land has become increasingly tight. He didn't finish his words, but everyone present understood what he meant. There are only so many pieces of land, the good ones are almost sold out, the bad ones, well, they are almost sold out, and the remaining ones can be said to be sold one piece for less. Although you can still make a profit from it, but if you want to be like a few years ago, almost like picking up money, relying on the sale of state-owned land to stimulate the economy is no longer possible. It is because of the artificially high real estate prices and the existence of certain bubbles that we must find other economic growth points. Wang Jianxi nodded seriously. The boom in real estate will stimulate the development of a number of heavy industries such as steel, cement, and metallurgy, as well as decoration, transportation, and other industries. But is the real estate now more than just a certain bubble? It is simply a bubble, prosperous on the surface but devastated behind the scenes, with the risk of collapse at any time. Apart from anything else, the price of cement alone has plummeted by half compared to 2 or 3 years ago, and the price of construction steel is even less than 1/3 of what it was in previous years. What followed was the bankruptcy and collapse of a large number of companies, and those who were still alive could only barely survive. This is like the price of steamed buns rising from 50 cents a piece to 2 yuan a piece, but the flour used to make steamed buns dropped from 2 yuan a pound to a few cents a pound. This is obviously abnormal. If we don't find other economic growth points, the economy will collapse sooner or later. Not only Yangchuan City, but also cities across the country are making great efforts to this end. This internal informal meeting lasted for a whole afternoon. Each unit discussed the situation, made demands, complained about difficulties, and finally managed to set a tone. As Wang Jianxi said before, change the growth model and look for new growth points, but there is no practical way. In other words, this meeting did not have any practical effect. Its only function was to unify our thoughts. Different positions, Different responsibilities. Lao Wang was promoted, but he was under more pressure than before when he was in charge of fisheries, agriculture, and forestry. He rubbed his brows and told his secretary, Xiao Chen, please make arrangements. In the next few days, I will go to various well-known companies and units in the city to investigate. Zhao Yun's family. Brother, are you from Xiangjiang or Yangchuan City? Cheng Cheng asked Su Ming with a confused look on his face, holding a teddy bear puppet that Su Ming brought back from Disney. After hearing that he became an honorary citizen of Xiangjiang, Cheng Cheng was puzzled by this question for a long time. That's right, Su Ming was also confused. His household registration was still in Suntown. Does this question make any sense? You are going to buy a helicopter. Do you still need to consider the down payment, provident fund, and social security for buying a house? Zhao Yun said as he handed a hardcover album to Su Ming, let's choose which helicopter you want. The last time Su Ming asked Zhao Yun to inquire about buying a private helicopter, Zhao Yun quickly contacted a company. The procedures for buying a helicopter are much more complicated than buying a car. What 3 certificates do you need to apply for to buy a domestic aircraft? Imported aircraft also need to be approved by the Civil Aviation Administration, submit various documentation, and even have to prove that you are not a terrorist. The whole process quite tedious. Of course, if you have money, you can solve these problems. Zhao Yun found a purchasing agency. He only needed to pay tens of thousands of yuan in service fees and let lawyer Zhang Siming sign a purchasing contract with the other party. The purchasing company would handle all the procedures for him. Su Ming paid the money, you can just sit back and wait to legally own a small aircraft. He came today to choose a model. There are only a dozen pages in the thick album, and each page is printed with a small helicopter and its corresponding introduction. After a rough look through it, I found that the cheapest domestic model is priced at less than 200,000 Chinese coins. A little more expensive than foreign goods, but only a little over 10 million. The main maintenance cost of private small helicopters is not as exaggerated as imagined. Brother, choose this, it's so beautiful. Cheng Cheng was helping with ideas, pointing to a Canadian Mosquito helicopter and said excitedly. It is indeed quite beautiful, with bright colors and smooth lines, and the price is not expensive, only 380,000 Chinese coins. Unfortunately, this thing can only seat one person. Pass it? What about this one? Cheng Cheng pointed at a round Bell 47. This is not bad, it looks a bit like a panda, and the interior space is enough. In addition to the driver, it can actually seat 4 people. The price is not expensive, only 400,000. The problem is, the top speed of this guy is less than 140 km per hour, which is too slow. Even if the car is slightly faster on the highway, it will go faster than this speed. Oh, by the way, the speed limit on the highway is 120. You can't speed. You must not speed. So, who is that? He's still eating cornstarch in the detention center. It's a bloody lesson. You have to have a position in mind, what you want to buy it for, and what the price range is, so that you can be targeted, Zhao Yun said on the side. Su Ming's idea is that in addition to the driver, it can also seat 2-3 people. It has many uses, such as self-driving travel, pretending to be flying with others, going home to see his mother or bringing her to stay for a few days. And the most important point is that as the scale of the zoo expands, helicopters can be used as machine tools, and can be used for mountain patrols and search and rescue operations. Due to the current size of the zoo, it is already very difficult to rely on just 2 legs and a car. After all, there are many places in the back mountains that vehicles cannot drive in at all. Then I suggest you choose this one. Zhao Yun had seen the album before and was very familiar with it. He turned directly to page 8 and pointed at a helicopter with a decent style. Hummingbird 206 is produced with approval from the FAA. The fuel system and electronic instrumentation are designed and manufactured in strict accordance with the requirements of the FAA. It has perfect performance, first-class quality, and integrates safety and reliability. It is limited to 4 people, can reach a speed of 200 km per hour, is equipped with a small storage compartment, and the price is also acceptable, $2.6 million. There are 2 biggest advantages. This thing has a pontoon that can take off and land on the water for water operations. It also has very low requirements for the lifting platform. It can take off and land vertically in a few square meters of space. Su Ming's eyes lit up. This is it? Brother, I have another question, Cheng Cheng asked again from the side. Little girl, you have 100,000 reasons. Just ask. Su Ming touched her little head. Then don't be angry. Cheng Cheng hesitated and asked, our classmates all say that buying imported goods is not patriotic. Why don't you buy domestically produced goods? Zhao Yun was drinking porridge. He didn't expect his children to ask such questions. He choked. What are children thinking about these days? For children of Chinchin's age, this issue is more complicated. Su Ming thought for a while and came up with a way that the children could accept, and said, let's do a math problem. For 100 yuan of domestic goods, I will pay 10 yuan in tax to the country. For 100 yuan of imported goods, I will pay 10 yuan in taxes, pay a tax of 120 yuan. Which one do you think I should buy? How much does our country earn? 10 yuan, 120 yuan. Cheng Cheng did the math and said decisively, then it must be to buy foreign goods, and the country will make a lot of money. Well, Cheng Cheng is so smart, Su Ming nodded and said encouragingly with a thumbs up. Cheng Cheng vigorously waved his fist and said angrily, those people are so bad, their money has been stolen by the country, and they also slander you as unpatriotic. Zhao Yun wiped his mouth with a tissue and said with a smile, the truth often comes from the mouths of children. Su Ming added, but those who deceive children are adults. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 346. Su Ming chose the hummingbird model and asked Zhao Yun half seriously, would you like to buy one as well? If you order 2 together, I think you can get a discount or something. Why do I need this thing? Without it, I can rest more at home. With a plane, Chinchin's mother will have to drag me around, and she will be exhausted, Zhao Yun said. This is the difference between young men and real old men. Su Ming couldn't help but sigh. He was as good to Nangong as he could be, while Zhao Yun was as lazy as he could be. In addition to the plane, this time I also wanted to discuss the winery expansion with Zhao Yun. In fact, to put it bluntly, there is no negotiation. It just means money. When you have money, you can expand the factory, recruit more workers, and purchase more machines and raw materials. Workers' wages can also be raised appropriately, Zhao Yun suggested. He also knew very well that more than half of the workers in the winery are actually Su Ming's fellow villagers. Su Ming recruited these fellow villagers who basically had no technical foundation. They came here and even spent money to train them. To a certain extent, it was just to win over the people in their hometown. Su Ming thought for a while, it's better not to increase the salary for the time being, and use bonuses instead. The people in your hometown need to be taken care of, but you can't just act like a good person. That will not only fail to achieve the purpose of helping people, but it will also easily breed people's laziness. The current wage level of the winery is already mid-range and above the average level among factories in the city. Even some ordinary state-owned enterprises cannot compare with it. This time it has gone up. What will happen next time? Wage increases must not be too frequent, let alone become the norm, otherwise workers will become accustomed to having their wages increased at every turn, and if the increase does not occur for a period of time, they will become resentful. If we use bonuses instead, this problem won't exist. If everyone works hard, the company's performance will be good, and the income will be more. If the workers are lazy, the company's performance will not be good, and everyone will be disappointed. Zhao Yun is the type of wise man who is strategizing. He is not idle at home. He has already made a rough plan for the expansion of the winery. Although the sales of the wine are good, after all, the time it was put into the market was too short. The previous investment has not been recovered yet, and the money recovered has been immediately invested in production, so the winery does not have much money available in its account. The more than 40 million that the Jockey Club gifted to Su Ming would be just a number if it was not spent. Su Ming had already made a rough plan for the use of the money and took 8 million out of it. Zhao Yun spent another 2 million, collected 10 million, and invested it in the winery. In this way, the size of the winery has been nearly doubled. This is also the current limit of the scale of Dacian liquor industry. It is not because of lack of money, but because it is limited by the most important raw material, Tai Sui water. If there is more, the purity of the Tai Sui water provided will not be guaranteed, and the quality of the brewed wine will naturally decline. This is a sign of damage to one's own brand. Every honorary citizen has made significant contributions and created economic income for the local area. Fortunately for you, you got nearly 50 million Hong Kong dollars back in one trip. Zhao Yun shook his head and said with a smile, "You are really incompetent in doing business. In the future, betting on horse racing a few times a year is better than anything else. It's just luck. How can I win every time? Besides, this is a one-time transaction. I think I will be blacklisted by the Jockey Club. I'm afraid it won't be possible to win like this next time." Cheng Cheng sat on the edge and listened to the two adults talking. She couldn't get a word in for a long time. Finally she found an opportunity and shouted with her hands on her hips, "Gambling is wrong. It's even more wrong for you to talk about gambling in front of children." Zhao Yun. Su Ming. "Unless you take me to play, I will forgive you," Cheng Cheng added righteously. It turned out that the drunkard's intention was not to drink. Next day, Zhao Yun and Su Ming had to go to the back of the zoo to do something, and Cheng Cheng heard about their plan. So scheming, Su Ming laughed and gave Cheng Cheng a thumbs up. "You succeeded, I will take you with me." Cheng Cheng looked at Zhao Yun, who said, "Go up and change your coat. I'll wait for you for 10 minutes. "Yeah," Cheng Cheng shouted and ran towards the stairs. Su Ming and Zhao Yun were originally going to inspect the restoration work of Chen Yaoliang's tomb, which was also one of the projects they collaborated on. Unlike the winery, Chen Yaoliang's tomb and the Ming Dynasty ancient buildings, similar to Zhao Yun's museum, are just cultural attractions, and neither of them expects to make money from this. At present, the excavation work of the ancient building complex has progressed to an advanced stage. After necessary protection and restoration, it can be opened to the public. In the next few days, there will be a lot of things to deal with that have accumulated over the holidays at the zoo. The snake garden in the back mountain has been basically built. Su Ming went to see it. The so-called snake garden is a miniature hilltop covering an area of about 6 acres. It is surrounded by high walls and has a natural ecological environment inside. He took it with him. The more than 100 snakes that came back were kept semi-wild in the snake garden. They were crawling everywhere on the trees and the ground, and they were fed regularly. It is not convenient for tourists to come in here for the time being. Firstly, there are no roads. Secondly, most of these snakes are highly venomous. Even if tourists come, they can only look around. If you really want to enter the snake park, you will have to be bitten into a pig's head. The money Luo Jiaji donated to the zoo was used to build roads connecting Guyuzianju, ancient tombs, snake gardens, and the zoo. Now the various attractions are isolated. Tourists want to go to Guyu from the zoo. Xianzhou is even easier to walk, but there is no way to the other two places. The back mountain needs to be developed, and the first thing to do is to build a road. Previously, he was planning to work with Zhao Yun to build it. Later, Su Ming thought about it. After all, this is not a toll road, but a service for the zoo attractions. It is more appropriate to use the name of the zoo. Even if it is a toll road, it is difficult to make a profit in a short period of time. Wang Hao's anchor recruitment is almost coming to an end. A total of 25 part-time anchors have been recruited, and the live broadcast platform has entered a relatively stable development stage. In the mainland zoo exchange group, leaders from all over the country have been in a good mood these days, and have exchanged experiences with Su Ming on live broadcasting. They followed the Yangchuan City Zoo and imitated it. The kittens learned from the big cats and set up their own live broadcast platforms. Although they were not as popular as the Yangchuan City Zoo live broadcast platform, the Pioneer, it was much better than the deserted live broadcast of the Shanghai Zoo. Su Ming almost distributed all the money he won from horse racing to entertainment companies and fishery companies, except for buying helicopters and expanding the winery. The fishery company mainly expands the scale of breeding, buys fish fry, and hires workers and technicians. Several of Liang Shi's classmates are now working in the fishery company. As long as the money is in place, it is not a problem to expand the existing breeding scale 3 or 4 times. The entertainment company took the majority of the money. A part of it was used to purchase small cruise ships and put into the Huading Reservoir. For the other part, Su Ming planned to build a small hot spring resort near the hot springs found in the back mountain, and then connect the resort with the various attractions of the zoo. In this way, the entire back mountain can be turned into a scenic spot. Of course, relying on these few attractions alone, the back mountain scenic spot is still a little thin, but it is finally of some scale, and the back mountain itself is shaded by trees. Even if there are no additional attractions, it can be a pure natural scenic spot with a little road repair. If Su Ming is thick-skinned, relying on his relationship with the government, it will not be a problem to apply for a 3A. He took another 3 million and put it in his mother's insurance fund. Su Ming has developed a habit. Every time he makes a lot of money, he will deduct a part of it and put it in this fund to leave a way out for himself and his mother, just in case. Counting on his fingers, he found that the 40 million yuan he had just received had not even warmed up yet, and most of it had been invested in production, starting the journey of making money from money. Su Ming had less than 3 million in working capital left. I'm looking forward to the arrival of next year. Su Ming secretly calculated that after increasing investment, he should have a huge income when the dividends were distributed at the end of the year. In the zoo, the two horses got along well with the alpacas. The alpacas followed the happy and the lion Bosaurus to learn how to run faster and how to carry people, while the two horses learned the spitting technique from the alpacas. Horses can snort, and every time they snort, they will spray out some saliva and snot, but compared with the alpaca's spraying skills, the horse's snorting is simply a small matter. The lion Bosaurus seems to be very interested in the skill of spraying a large amount of saliva at one time and spraying it very far. 3 days later, the two giant pandas from the Hong Kong Ocean Park finally arrived. Yangchuan TV and Yangchuan Daily reported the event, which attracted a lot of attention in a short period of time. The number of people online on the live broadcast platform and the number of visitors to the zoo increased significantly. That afternoon, Su Ming was walking his horse in the back mountain when Sister Tong suddenly called and said that someone from the bank was looking for him. Bank? What do I have to do with the bank? Su Ming was stunned. He didn't need a loan and didn't owe any money. Why did the bank look for him? Could it be that an acquaintance introduced him to attract deposits? There was a female classmate in college. It is said that she is now a bank salesperson, specializing in customers. When he was in college, Su Ming coveted that girl for a while. The female classmate was not particularly stunning in terms of appearance, but she had a charming aura. Even without makeup, her eyes and eyebrows were full of charm. She was the kind of woman who wanted to be pressed on the big bed at first sight. If it weren't for Nangong, maybe he could still hook up with that female classmate now. Anyway, money is something that can be stored anywhere, and Su Ming doesn't care about the interest. "What are you thinking about?" Su Ming rubbed his face and asked, "Did the other party tell you what they are here for?" "They said she is your classmate," Sister Tong said. "Ah? No way, what's her name?" "A woman, her name is Rosa, the business manager of ICBC," written on her business card, Sister Tong said. Su Ming almost spat out a mouthful of blood. People are really unpredictable. What you think will come true? Isn't this Rosa the female classmate in college that he wanted to push when he saw her? Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 347. Back at the zoo office building, I saw a red Mazda 6 parked on the roadside not far away. I went upstairs and walked into the office. I saw Sister Tong chatting with a young woman in a business suit and curly hair. "Director, you are back. Comrade Rosa wants to see you." Sister Tong stood up and nodded to Rosa, "Then you guys chat. I'll take my leave first." Rosa also stood up and gave Sister Tong a very friendly smile. "Thank you, you're busy." Otherwise, it is said that Rosa has a charming taste in her bones. She didn't make any coquettish gestures and she didn't wear too little, but just the simple action of standing up from the chair perfectly highlighted the lines of the woman's body. Su Ming's heart skipped a beat when he saw it. After Sister Tong left, Rosa came over and extended her hand generously, smiling tenderly but not flatteringly. "Hello, old classmate." "Hello, hello, why did you think of coming to my place?" Su Ming didn't dare to shake hands with her for a long time. He held her hand for a little while and then let go, and quickly sat behind the desk. Sit down, sit down." Being a leader, even the momentum is different. Rosa smoothed her skirt and sat down in front of Su Ming, staring at Su Ming with blinking eyes, and smiled. "Why, old classmates can't come to your place to play when they have nothing to do." "What you said, of course. But, you don't have to wear work clothes to come to play." Su Ming pointed at her chest. "You are annoying." Rosa shrank back and glared at Su Ming coquettishly. "Sister, I mean the nameplate on your chest." Su Ming was convinced. Rosa must know what she meant and did it on purpose. "Okay, I won't joke with you anymore." Rosa smiled and said, "It's like this. You opened a card in our bank. The bank found that you have made large deposits and consumption recently, so we upgraded it to a peony platinum card." "Oh, I see, it's a VIP." Su Ming nodded. "So that's the case. In the past year, the bank card has gone from only a few thousand yuan to hundreds of thousands or millions of yuan. Recently, it has been a large amount of 40 million yuan. It is considered a big customer." "Yes." Rosa nodded, "I happen to be in charge of big customers, and I am here to serve you." I don't know if she did it on purpose or if Su Ming was overthinking. The words "serve you" specifically at the end always sounded weird. But when Rosa said this, she didn't have a bit of undignified expression, but the more she said this, the more unbearable it was. She wanted to push it to the service immediately. Su Ming saw that this woman was a reincarnation of a fox spirit and must not be touched. Changing the subject, I asked curiously, "Is it the legendary Centurion card? You can enjoy many services." The Centurion Black Gold card is a black credit card launched by American Express. It has a Roman soldier head printed on it, called the Centurion. This card is recognized as the king of cards in the world. It is positioned for the top group and has no upper limit on the credit limit. Card holders can enjoy the world's top member exclusive privileges, rights, and services. It is said that once a card holder left his luggage on a train, American Express actually contacted the railway company and asked the train to stop midway and wait for the card holder to pick up the luggage. There is such a saying that if the Centurion card holder wants to go to the sky and the sea, American Express will try its best to satisfy the needs of as long as it is something that Earthlings can do. This card is also issued in China, and ICBC is one of the 3 banks that are qualified to issue cards. Rosa didn't answer directly, but asked mysteriously, "The threshold for the Centurion card is very high. Among our classmates, you are the best, so how much wealth do you have now?" If this sentence comes from another woman's mouth, it will make people feel very powerful, but when it comes from Rosa's mouth, it doesn't feel that way. It's just a girl's curiosity. As long as he is a man, he can't help but want to satisfy her curiosity. "I can hold it back." Su Ming pinched himself and said seriously, "Why are you asking this? Are you asking about my privacy? A man's wallet is like a woman's age, both are secrets." Stingy, just asking casually. Rosa was not angry, and said, "How can a Centurion card be so easy to get? You can't even apply for it. You need an annual deposit of more than 100 million Chinese yuan, or you must be a rich man on the Huron wealth ranking, or you must be a member of the provincial CPPCC." Su Ming grinned. It seems that he still has some distance to go. "But the platinum card is also good, and it also has many special services," Rosa said. "For example, free transfers and direct boarding are all quite practical." "Special services? What special services?" Su Ming rolled his eyes in his heart and said, "Okay, I get it. If you have nothing to do, call a few classmates at noon. I'll call Nangong, and let's have a meal together. You're thinking about Nangong in your heart, and you're annoyed when you talk to me for a few more words, right?" Rosa pretended to be angry, and then said, "Who said it's okay? You are now a big customer of our branch. Every year, new big customers will be invited to participate in activities. I came here to give you an invitation card today." "What event?" Su Ming asked curiously. "The Yangtze River will open for fishing next week. At this time every year, Huiying County will hold a culinary culture exchange meeting. At that time, famous chefs from all over the country will come to show their skills, and major well-known restaurants will also send people to purchase fresh seafood. Huiying County is one of the subordinate counties of Yangchuan City. It is close to the Yangtze River and has a prosperous fishery. It is only a few kilometers away from Yangchuan City." Su Ming was a little disappointed. "It's just a food festival." "The city holds several food festivals a year. There are all kinds of food festivals, such as Treasure Island, Hong Kong food, and foreign food. They are just gimmicks. The taste is not as good as the usual food stalls, and the price is very expensive. This is not the kind of food festival you are talking about. The people who can come to the Huiying County Cooking Exchange are all real masters in the cooking world. In addition, there will be Fish Kings and Turtle Kings every year. There will be small auctions, which are very lively. Ordinary people can't participate without an invitation." Rosa opened her eyes and shook her head. "Then you can go and take a look." Su Ming nodded, took the invitation card handed over by Rosa, put it in the drawer, and then looked up at Rosa. Rosa chuckled, "Okay, the business is done. I know you are busy, so I won't eat with you. There are still a lot of things to do at the company. We will meet again in the future." Left a business card and waved, "Bye, old classmate. If you have business with the bank in the future, just call me directly." After saying that, she turned around and left the office with a fragrant breeze, stepping on high heels. Really a good material for business. Su Ming picked up the business card and took a look at it, then put it into a pile of business cards in the drawer. Just when Rosa came to find Su Ming, in the Hongjia restaurant in Jiangjin City, the provincial capital, Hongfei, the only daughter of the owner Hongbo, also came to the kitchen with a lot of things on her mind. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 348. Hong Fei had just come out of her father Hong Bo's office and learned that the two restaurants at home could no longer sustain themselves. Hong Bo finally made up his mind to finish the last month and file for bankruptcy. After paying off debts that should be paid, selling off what should be sold, and paying severance pay to the old employees of the restaurant, the father and daughter left Jiangjin City. Although Hong Fei was sad when she heard the news, she felt a sense of relief deep in her heart. Growing up, she watched her father pay too much to revitalize the Hong family cuisine, and experienced countless hardships, especially in the past 2 years, when the business was declining. Hong Bo seemed to be prosperous, but secretly he was working too hard. And even went so far as to defraud loans in the name of running a breeding farm. Fortunately, Chen Yaojin came out of the blue. If Hong Bo had succeeded at that time, it seems now that it would not have helped. It would have just delayed the closure for a few months. And also tricked the honest farmers in Suntown. Unlike Hong Bo, Hong Fei inherited the Hong family's ancestral cooking skills and was in the kitchen. She had no interest in doing business and could not do it. Now that Hong's cuisine has closed down, their father and daughter may be able to live a relaxed and ordinary life. After all these years, the father and daughter still have some personal savings. With her good cooking skills, they will not run out of food wherever they go. Hong Fei put on a chef's outfit. As soon as she walked into the kitchen, she saw several master chefs in the back kitchen and 7 or 8 workers who helped cut and wash vegetables. They were chatting together. When they heard someone coming in, they all gathered together. Staring at himself sharply. "It's broad daylight, why aren't you doing anything? The kitchen is Hong Fei's domain. Here, her authority is greater than that of her father." She glanced at her and asked. Several workers did not dare to speak, but a master chef with gray hair smiled bitterly. "Fei, the hotel is about to collapse, so we still have time to cook." "Uncle Yang, you are old, there are things I shouldn't say." Hong Fei walked to the chopping board with a sullen face, pointing to the pots and pans on the table. "Whether the company will fail or not, that is what my dad has to worry about. Even if things go wrong, we won't lose a penny." "Who are we?" "We are chefs. As long as there is one guest in the hall, we have to do what chefs should do. In modern terms, it is called dedication. The ancient saying of practicing diligently is called duty. Kingsing is a cook." In feudal society, although Kingsing people had a low status and were not on the stage, they had their own set of rules. Strictly speaking, they were part of the Jianghu people. Even though Hong Fei is less than 1/3 of the master's age, she teaches people in the same way, and even smells like an ancient heroine. The masters are speechless when she talks about it. Master Yang is also a well-known national first-class chef. He can definitely become the head chef in any big hotel. In front of other chefs, he is always a figure with nostrils turned upward. But in front of Hong Fei, she didn't even have the heart to talk back. There is no way, diligence does not matter the age, the competition is skills and virtues, whoever has higher skills and good virtues will be obeyed. This virtue does not refer to benevolence, justice, propriety, wisdom and trust in the eyes of ordinary people, nor does it refer to the core values of socialism, but the set of cook's rules passed down from ancient times. The Hong family is very knowledgeable and has not only passed down the craftsmanship but also the rules. Hong Fei has grown up with this kind of education. Even though she is young, in terms of virtue, these old masters who have no family background are really far away. Not as good as her. "Fei, there are not many guests today, just one table. Yesterday, Director Xia of the Tourism Bureau decided to eat snakes. There was only one green snake left in the kitchen. We were worried that it would be damaged, so smashing the signboard was not the best option," a middle-aged chef explained. These chefs didn't mean to make things difficult for her. They were all good at making snakes, but if they wanted to do well, that was another matter. Hong Fei started working in restaurant kitchens at the age of 15. Over the past 10 years, these chefs have been suppressed by their obscene power. If the guests are not satisfied, Hong Fei will really get angry. They can taste like shit, Hong Fei swore disdainfully and snapped her fingers. Snake. Lao Yang brought over a bamboo cage more than half a meter high. Inside, there was a green bamboo with a yellow belly and dark red eyes. This bamboo leaf green snake is obviously thicker than the ordinary bamboo leaf green snake, over 1 meter. This kind of big bamboo with green leaves is relatively rare. It is produced in only one place in the country, which is the bamboo sea in southern Sichuan in the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Dazuyecking is known as the king of bamboo-yecking. As you can tell from the name, it is extremely toxic. The more poisonous the snake, the more delicious the meat. The eyes of this big bamboo leaf green are already dark red, and it is 3 points more poisonous than the ordinary big bamboo leaf green. The purchase price alone is more than 10,000, and it has been cooked by Hong Fei. The price is as high as 28,888, which shows that Hongjia cuisine takes the high-end route. Ordinary bamboo leaf green is extremely toxic, let alone this king bamboo leaf green. As soon as it was taken out, several younger helpers jumped away as if they were hiding from the plague, for fear of being bitten. However, they are reluctant to leave the kitchen. It is not often seen that Miss Hong cooks in person. Learning a few tricks will be enough for them to use her for several years. Several master chefs also rubbed their hands and looked at Hong Fei with a smile. Hey, I've never seen you so blatantly steal from me. Forget it, let's just treat it as giving everyone some benefits before we break up. Hong Fei glared at several people present in a funny and angry way, and then opened the door. He looked at the bamboo basket cover swimming inside for a few seconds. Then he thrust his hand into the basket like lightning, and with 2 onion-like fingers, he firmly grasped the 7 inches of the bamboo leaf, 1 meter long. The long green bamboo leaves came into her hands and were pulled out like noodles. Sister, here you go, a helper said with a flattering look on his face and handed over a sharp knife and a wooden board with nails. Killing a snake is similar to killing an eel. He nailed 7 inches of the snake to the wooden board, and then used a sharp knife to peel a hole. Skin and disembowel. Nonsense, can you still eat it after being killed like this? Hong Fei ignored him and took out a small porcelain bottle. With a flick of her thumb, she opened the lid of the porcelain bottle, and immediately a scent of herbal medicine wafted out from it. Sister, what is this? It smells so good. Is it snake medicine? The worker asked flatteringly. Master Yang, who had been scolded before, smiled, showed his seniority, and said to the worker, what do you know? This is dogwood juice. Ah, the worker had obviously never heard of this thing, and looked at Hong Fei curiously. Hong Fei didn't explain, she just curled her fingers at him, handed him the small bottle of dogwood juice, and asked him to take it. Then the thumb and middle finger of his free hand clamped between the upper and lower jaws of Dazuyecking. Zuyixing immediately opened his mouth, with 2 fangs pointing outwards. Feed it, be careful not to get caught by the fangs on your hands, otherwise even the gods can't save you, Hong Fei said. The worker tremblingly handed the bottle to Zuyecking's mouth, and poured the dogwood juice inside into Zuyecking's mouth. After drinking all the bamboo leaves, Hong Fei opened the bamboo cage and threw the bamboo leaves in. Zuyecking seemed to have been drugged, twisting and rolling her body over and over in the bamboo cage, causing the entire cage to shake, but soon she stopped moving. When Hong Fei brought it out again, she was already limp. A piece of it collapsed and he actually fainted. The boy boldly poked Zuyecking's belly, but there was no reaction at all. Hey, sister, this is an anesthetic, the worker said in surprise. Haha, don't you understand? Cats use mint as wine, snakes use dogwood as wine, Zuyecking is drunk, Fei gives it dogwood, and the meat will be fresh and tender, Lao Yang explained on the side. There is another reason Hong Fi Fei rarely took the initiative to speak. Normal killing methods, whether it is suffocation, disembowelment or throwing to death, animals are just like people. When they are dying, they will be nervous and fearful, and the body secretes an amino acid, which causes the meat taste slightly off. Although the person upstairs can't eat it, we cooks can't lie to ourselves. If we let it get drunk and die, there won't be this problem. Remember, it's not just about killing. Snake, when dealing with any animal, it is best not to let it die in fear. It is more humane and tastes better. I'm convinced, I'm really enlightened, the worker gave a thumbs up and said sincerely in admiration. Next, watch Hong Fi Fei wield the knife like the wind, as if she was performing sword skills. She quickly and easily peeled off the drunken Zhu Yeking's teeth and skin, and took off her scales. During the whole process, Zhu Yeking didn't even shed a drop of blood, and her muscles could be faintly seen. Next, the blood flows in the veins, and the last knife is used to bleed. A few minutes later, the bamboo leaf green was cut into n pieces, and all the edible parts of the snake meat, intestines, and gallbladder were sorted. Most people think that snake skin is just scales, but this is not the case. After removing the scales, there is a translucent film underneath, which makes porridge taste great, even more delicious than the best bird's nest. Of course, most people can't handle scales well at all. Come on, Fi Fei, leave it to us. Whether the snake tastes good or not depends mainly on how to kill it. The cooking process is similar. At least based on the skills of the few chefs present, the snake will definitely die a decent death. What a waste. Then you guys get busy. Hong Fi Fei washed her hands and took off her apron. While making ingredients, a chef she knew best asked, Fi Fei, the Yangtze River fishing in Huiying County starts next week, do we still want to go? The ingredients of Hongjia cuisine are always carefully selected. After half a year of fishing moratorium, the fish in the Yangtze River have grown fat and strong. Fishing starts in May, which is the most plump time, and occasionally they can be caught. A small number of rare fish. Therefore, every year when fishing starts in Huiying County, Hong Fi Fei will take people to purchase. It seems that Hongjia cuisine is about to close down, and there is no point in going there. Forget it, you just stay home, I will rescue seeing by myself, Hong Fi Fei said. The fishing festival in Huiying County is actually a culinary feast. As a top chef, Hong Fi Fei certainly doesn't want to miss it. Besides, although the Hong family can no longer open the restaurant, she will still work as a chef in the future. Of course, she can't do it if she has good ingredients. Missed it, except you don't need to purchase as much as before. There is a deeper reason. In Yangchuan City, not far from Huiying County, there is an old friend with whom she has a deep relationship. This old friend goes to the fishing ceremony every year. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 349. Su Ming went to the hot spring construction site in the back mountain in the afternoon. The entertainment company had hired a professional designer to design an electronic 3D model of the future hot spring resort according to Su Ming's intention. Su Ming was quite satisfied after seeing it. Arranged for the construction team to start construction near the hot spring. From the original Feng Shui Pavilion to the Guyu Xianzhu, Su Ming has always followed the retro-style route, and the general design direction of this hot spring is no exception. In the electronic 3D model, the future hot spring resort looks like a large open ancient building, and the internal structure has not yet been determined. The only thing that can be seen clearly is a large stone about 2 people high at the door. Half of the large stone is submerged in the ground. The surface of the half of the stone exposed on the ground is covered with ivy. 3 vaguely visible stones can be seen. Ancient seal characters. Lanruo Temple. What a bad taste. When Su Ming thought about what would happen after this place was built in the future, he was filled with anticipation. At that time, a group of girls wearing ancient gauze dresses from the movie will play in the hot springs of Lanruo Temple. In the surrounding wilderness, there are still several wolf howls from time to time, and a large group of evil men rush into the hot springs and seize them. Just a little girl having sex. Then Lanruo Temple Hot Spring was closed down by relevant departments. To be serious, although I am following the path of a Chinese ghost story, I can have gimmicks, but it must be legal. Say important things 3 times, legal, legal, legal. If only I could say it 1500 times, there would be no need to do anything else in this chapter. I walked around and returned to the zoo office. As soon as I entered the door, Ichika was in front of me. A young man with colorfully dyed hair, who looked like a pheasant, was holding a cigarette carelessly, squatting on an office chair, with several large male and female earrings hanging on his ears, and the fingers holding the cigarette were covered with rows of punk-style metal rings, make him look like a non-mainstream rebellious boy. Nangong was sitting on the sofa, scolding Tai Buletin gang, "You are such an adult, why can't you let your uncle save some snacks?" He started fighting with others, and it all ended up in the criminal police team. Do you know, if it weren't for my dad. Don't say you will be detained for half a year this time. Cousin, please stop fooling me, I know the law. Those under the age of 18 only bear limited criminal liability. I don't kill people or set fires. It's no big deal. The young man shook his legs and said in a nonchalant tone. Seeing Su Ming enter the office, both of them looked this way. Nangong nuzzled at the young man angrily, "My cousin, Nangong Huang, I will leave it to you from now on." Brother-in-law, the pheasant boy turned his head and greeted Su Ming in a nonchalant manner, then took out a cigarette and gave it to Su Ming. The non-mainstream boy with a somewhat fantasy name in front of him is the cousin that Nangong Yan often mentions, the only son of Uncle Nangong Yan. He is not yet 18 this year. He has been naughty and troublesome since he was a child. He does everything except serious things. When I was in school, I was a troublemaker for the teachers. Later, after I went to a third-rate technical school, I got even worse. I smoked, drank, and fought. The key was to dress myself up so that I didn't look like a human or a ghost, and I was proud of it. Nangong Huang graduated from technical school this year, and it is impossible to continue schooling. As far as his grades are concerned, he can't even memorize the English alphabet. Normally, he should forget it after memorizing it after EFK. Occasionally, he can reach LMN with extraordinary performance. So the problem of work is a constant problem. After several years of studying shit, I have not learned anything, and now I am like this. Which company is willing to hire such a person? Let him be a worker. Nangong Huang himself couldn't bear the hardship. He couldn't work on the assembly line for 2 hours before he complained that he couldn't stand it anymore. Nangong's father had found him a job as an auxiliary police officer. On the second day of work, during patrol at night, this kid was lazy and went to the beauty salon to smoke and chat with the lady. A passerby took a video and posted it online. Lost again. In Nangong's father's family, there are 5 brothers, and Nangong Huang is the only one who inherits the family line. Although they hate him, they all value him like a treasure, especially Aunt Nangong. Every time the family gathers, she talks about this son. Shedding tears, the family couldn't just watch him idle, so Nangong found Su Ming and wanted Su Ming to make arrangements for him at the zoo. Money is not important, the main thing is to let Su Ming keep an eye on this kid and save him from getting into trouble. The zoo is full of animals. No matter how ridiculous this kid is, he can't bully tigers and lions. What brother-in-law? Brother-in-law is what you should call him, leader. Nangong stared. Nangong glared. Su Ming was afraid, but Nangong Huang was not afraid. He shrugged and said, "Sister, There is no need to be embarrassed. What age are we in now? You and I have been dating for so long and yet you haven't had sex? Do you think my child is ignorant? Look, it's such a bastard. I can't control it, leave it to you. Nangong looked at Su Ming and said angrily. We all come from this age, too. Su Ming smiled and signaled to Nangong to calm down. Then he took the cigarette from Nangong Wang's hand, glanced at the brand, threw it directly into the office trash can, and picked it up from the drawer. He took out a pack of 95 Supreme, took out one and threw it to Nangong Huang. Your cigarettes are too bad, smoke mine. Nangong Huang volleyed, took the cigarette and was stunned for a moment, then he smiled and said, brother-in-law, you can do it? I have seen these cigarettes on TV. Only corrupt officials can afford to smoke them. There must be several hundred packs. Big corrupt official, Su Ming almost slapped him to death. 99. Su Ming pointed to the bandage on Guangong Huang's arm. Let me tell you something else. You have limited criminal liability. You are under 16 years old. It has nothing to do with you. What happened to you this time? What else can he do at his age? He's jealous. He had a fight with a guy for a girl at a food stall at night and smashed his head with a bottle. Nangong said angrily. Who told that grandson to be so dirty and ask a girl from our class to go to a hotel with him? He looks like that. Zhu Beiji should thank God for giving him a good birth. If they weren't so many, he would have beaten my brain into a dog's brain, Nangong Huang cursed. I didn't expect him to be a venomous snake. Hero saves beauty. Did you win in the end? Su Ming leaned back in the boss chair and asked with a smile. They were so many. As soon as I put the bottle down, someone attacked me from behind and pushed me to the ground. Brother-in-law, I'm not bragging to you. I didn't let that old bastard have an easy time either. He's still lying in the hospital, Nangong Huang boasted proudly. You still have the nerve to say that? Your whole family is going to be pissed off by you. You can't call the police, but your whole family is police. Nangong was so angry that he was about to run away. Su Ming also felt that this kid might have some problems with his brain. Nangong's family is a police family. Her uncle is in the traffic police team, her father is in the criminal police team, her third uncle is in the armed police, her fourth uncle is a policeman, and the youngest uncle seems to be the legendary national security. Several sisters are also civilians in various bureaus. Nangong Huang encountered something, but he didn't call the police, but did it himself. Isn't this destroying his martial arts? I hate you police the most. You eat people's food but don't do people's work. You eat people's food but don't shit people's shit. Oh sister, I'm not talking about you, you are not a policeman, Nangong Huang said disdainfully. Seeing that Nangong was about to go berserk again, Su Ming quickly interrupted and asked Nangong Huang, what major did you study in technical school? What kind of job do you want to do? It doesn't matter what major I studied, because I haven't learned anything. Nangong Huang was not ashamed but proud. As for work, brother-in-law, you can do it? Well, just don't work too hard. It's best not to arrive on time, work overtime, or go on business trips. It would be best if you can avoid working in the office. Oh, and I'm used to freedom. It's best if no one else can control me except you. Oh, I saw that your zoo has a lot of houses along the way. Get me a dormitory. A bigger one with air conditioning and heating. As for the salary, you decide. But no matter what, I am your brother-in-law. It's okay for me to have a lower salary than you, but I can't have a lower salary than others, otherwise you will lose face. That's about it. I don't have any requirements. You decide, brother-in-law. I'll listen to you. If this was Su Ming's own brother, he would have hit him on the head with an ashtray. How stupid must he be to say such a thing with a clear conscience? Don't listen to his nonsense. He studied Chinese cuisine and graduated from Oriental Chef Technical School, Nangong said on the side. Oriental Chef Technical School is a famous technical school in the country. If you study hard, you can still learn the skills, but Su Ming doesn't have much hope for this brother-in-law in front of him. A police family, going to a chef technical school is a sign of mental retardation. However, there happened to be a suitable position. Su Ming thought about it and said, "How about this? The zoo is going to open a restaurant specifically for customers, and you will work there in the future. The salary is high, the work is easy, and no one is supervising you. There are several floors above the restaurant that are empty, which can be used as your dormitory. It is large enough. The small canteen in the zoo is mainly for internal employees, such as canteens selling snacks and drinks. Occasionally, when there are too many tourists during festivals, they will sell boxed lunches, which is not the norm. Usually, if tourists want to eat, they can only go to restaurants outside the park. As the flow of people in the zoo increases and the number of projects continues to increase, a meeting was held within the zoo, and it was felt that it was necessary to open a restaurant in the park anyway. There are so many open spaces in the zoo, and it is idle anyway. Opening a restaurant can generate income and provide convenience to tourists, killing two birds with one stone. Moreover, the scale of the zoo will definitely expand in the future, and it will develop into a scenic spot with a one-stop service of eating, drinking, and having fun. It is not possible without special catering. The fish in Shuahun Lake are already made, and they are more delicious than the fish in the reservoir. Sometimes you can't buy them on the market. Su Ming asked, and the first wave of wild boars in Suntown have been born, and they will be on the table in about half a year. There are also various fungi planted in the back mountain, which are very special ingredients. There is also a fishing exchange meeting in the Yangtze River in Huiying County next week, and maybe you can buy some good ingredients. So Su Ming decided to transform the two lower floors of the vacant Tingfeng Pavilion into a restaurant to provide lunch. The huge Tingfeng Pavilion has been idle for several years, which is a waste of resources. After Xiaomei Jiaoshao and others left, it is now empty again. The architectural style of Tingfeng Pavilion is simple and elegant. It stands by Shuahun Lake. It is used as a restaurant. It is perfect to eat while enjoying the lake and mountains. What is lacking now is a good chef. Sister-son in the zoo's canteen and the two aunts in the small canteen only have home-cooked cooking skills. At best, they are at the level of food stalls. There is still a big gap from opening a restaurant. "How good are your cooking skills?" Su Ming asked. Nangong Huang said nonchalantly, "It's okay." Dividing line. Which chef training is the best? Which excavator training is the best? Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 350. Hearing is false, seeing is believing. The meaning of the word okay is really rich. What the foreigner Si Bayer calls okay is a delicacy in the eyes of ordinary people, but what the beggar calls okay may not even be eaten by dogs. There is a world of difference. Nangong still has to go to work today, so he goes first. Su Ming takes Nangong Huang to the small kitchen of the zoo, where there are ready-made pots, pans, ingredients and seasonings, so that he can show his skills on the spot. The two aunts in the kitchen saw Su Ming coming, and their faces were full of smiles. "Leader, are you here to inspect the work?" "Don't worry, since you took office, our zoo has never been short of money. The kitchen has always been well funded. We will make sure all comrades are well fed." Another aunt took a small notebook and opened it like a treasure. Every page was full of words. The aunt introduced it in detail. "Director, look, this is the detailed purchase account for each day, the menu for the day." These two aunts are in their 40s and 50s. They come from rural areas and don't know how to use computers. They still keep accounts and write recipes with pen and paper. Su Ming was not in a hurry to let Nangong Huang cook, but he carefully read a few pages of accounts, praised the two ants, and then explained his purpose. "Well, director, you are busy, we will wait outside, and you can call us sometimes." Nangong Huang took the small account book, turned 2 pages boredly, threw it aside, and said with disdain, "Brother-in-law, I heard from my sister that you, who earn tens of millions a year, still care about these hundreds of dollars. This is too stingy. It's not a question of whether I care or not, but whether these two ants care or not." Su Ming shook his head and smiled. The two ants are the most basic employees of the zoo. They usually don't have the opportunity to deal with big leaders like themselves. It's rare for them to come to the kitchen on their own initiative. It's reasonable for them to take the initiative to show their work achievements in front of him. "I don't understand, tell me," Nangong Huang asked curiously. "The zoo's accounts are managed by professional accountants, so I don't need to worry about them. I don't eat in the canteen either, so it doesn't matter whether I look at this account or not. But if I didn't look at it just now, or looked at it carelessly, it would dampen their enthusiasm for work," Su Ming said. "I seem to understand it a little, but I don't quite understand it." Nangong Huang scratched his head. "For example, if you do something that makes you famous, you go home excitedly and tell your dad about it. You thought your dad would praise you, but your dad doesn't care after listening to you, and just says oh and goes to take a shower. How do you feel?" Su Ming said with a smile. "My dad? He has never praised me since I was a child." Nangong Huang put his hands in the pockets of his baggy jeans and shook his body, "but I don't think I have done anything to show off. It's very good to be a hero saving a beautiful woman, but next time you should pay attention to the way and method." Su Ming patted Nangong Huang on the shoulder. "Okay, go and cook a dish for me to try." "Okay. Actually, brother-in-law, I won't hide it from you. Although I am not good at theoretical courses, my cooking skills are still good." Nangong Huang was obviously a little excited after being praised by Su Ming. He searched in the kitchen excitedly for a while, and finally found a pork chop and some ginger. "Brother-in-law, let me make some sweet and sour pork ribs." "Okay." Su Ming nodded, dragged a chair over, lit a cigarette, and sat down to watch Nangong Huang cook. Nangong Huang pulled an apron and tied it on. He quickly chopped the pork chops into 2-inch pieces and blanched them in water. He used this time to cut the onions, ginger, garlic, and other ingredients. The whole process looked quite professional. He was indeed a professional who graduated from the Oriental Chef Training School. He had the demeanor of a chef on TV. It seems that this kid has learned a lot in the past few years. At least he has mastered the basic skills of a chef. He is from a police family and did not go to the police academy but went to the chef school. There is a reason. It is said that he has liked cooking since he was a child. He can only stay focused when cooking. He is only enthusiastic about other things for 3 minutes and can't do it for a long time. Nangong Huang cooked from beginning to end, with a cigarette in his mouth. The stove below was smoking, and his mouth was also smoking. The ash was getting longer and longer. Su Ming was very worried that it would fall into the pot. After the last 10 minutes of low heat to reduce the sauce, Nangong Huang added a spoonful of balsamic vinegar to the wok, turned off the fire, shook the handle of the wok, put the sweet and sour pork ribs in the wok on a plate, sprinkled some pre-cut green onions, and brought it to Su Ming. "Try it, brother-in-law." Nangong Huang took out a pair of chopsticks from the chopstick cage and handed it over, then wiped his hands on his apron, took out a cigarette and lit it. "It looks good." Su Ming first gave a thumbs up. The sweet and sour pork ribs in front of him were still steaming and smelled sweet. The thick sauce and the ribs blended together, combined with the emerald green onions, it looked very appetizing. Judging from the 3 aspects of color, aroma, and taste, the color and aroma are definitely above the average level, and there is no problem in being an ordinary chef. Su Ming picked up a piece and put it in his mouth. The taste of the sweet and sour sauce melted in his mouth, making people unable to resist biting the small ribs wrapped in the sauce. "Bite it." I couldn't bite it hard. Use some force, bite it again. Okay, I bit it open smoothly. After chewing it for a few times, the ribs were like rubber, stubbornly resisting the attack of the teeth, but unfortunately, the arms couldn't twist the thighs, and they died in Su Ming's mouth. The ribs also left traces of struggle in Su Ming's mouth. There were a lot of meat shreds stuck in the gaps between the teeth. Commonly known as stuck teeth. How is it, brother-in-law? Nangong Huang asked. I'll try another piece. Su Ming found another slightly smaller piece. It tastes similar to the one just now. Su Ming put down his chopsticks and said, there are 3 types of color, flavor, and flavor. A perfect score of 100 points. I can give you 80 points for color and aroma. As for the taste, I can barely get 60 points. Su Ming found a toothpick and picked out the meat between the teeth one by one. I said vaguely, it's too old to burn. This pork rib is not delicious to say the least, but it is cooked too old, which affects the taste. Even Su Ming can taste it, let alone some picky eaters. If it were an ordinary family, or a street food stall, it would be enough to eat, but if you open a serious restaurant, even if the customers don't drop their plates, they won't come back to eat again next time. 60 points is not bad. You passed. Nangong Huang flicked the ashes of the cigarette in his hand carelessly. Anyway, cooking is not my strong point. Then what are your strengths? Su Ming asked. As a chef, cooking is not your strong point, so what is your strong point? Could it be that he is the legendary person who is the best at singing among chefs and the best at cooking among singers? Nangong Huang stood up, threw the cigarette butt on the ground, stamped it out, and asked, do you have any wine? Yes, there are always several boxes of red and white beer in the small warehouse behind the kitchen in case of entertaining customers or having internal dinners. This guy's forte is drinking? Su Ming thought to himself what kind of virtue he had accumulated in his previous life. God actually sent him such a top-notch smoking and drinking brother-in-law. However, the scene that happened next made Su Ming look at Nangong Huang with admiration. He selected 2 kinds of wine from the warehouse, a bottle of mineral water, and a few small pieces of lemon fruit. He also took a box of frozen ice cubes from the refrigerator, laid them out in rows on the table, and found a few at random. An empty glass with a long mouth was used to mix several types of wine together. After a series of dizzying movements, several types of wine were mixed in the cup with distinct layers. Nangong Huang casually inserted an open lemon into the mouth of the cup and put the cup pushed in front of Su Ming. Are you a bartender? Su Ming had never eaten pork and had seen pigs running around before. Su Ming still knew what he was doing just now. I taught myself, Nangong Huang said with a proud look on his face. I have always wanted to open a bar by myself, but I just didn't have the money. My dad refused to support me. Brother-in-law, I'm not bragging. My bartending skills are better than those in our school. It's definitely top-notch, and the bartenders in several famous bars in the city are not as good as me. When it comes to bartending, the key is technique, but taste is not that important. The vast majority of people, even old drunkards who drink frequently, cannot actually tell whether the proportions of several types of wine are appropriate and what the taste and quality are. Su Ming couldn't even tell the difference. Judging from Nangong Huang's technique just now, it was like a magic trick, quite eye-catching. Unexpectedly, he had this ability. Su Ming thought about it and said, well, Tingfeng Pavilion has 5 floors in total. The lower 2 floors can be used as restaurants, and the 3rd floor can be turned into a small bar. I hired you, you go take charge of this bar. This boy is quite handsome, and with the Nangong family's genes there, Nangong Huang can't be ugly even if he wants to be. If he takes the route of a handsome boy and combines it with good bartending skills, he will definitely attract a large number of girls. And it can be seen that Nangong Huang is interested in this industry. When he was cooking the ribs just now, he was holding a cigarette from start to finish and was just doing it casually. But when he was mixing drinks, not only was he not smoking, but his entire attention was focused on the wine, and he was very involved. Interest is the best teacher. Even a person who doesn't know how to bartend can still learn well as long as he is interested. What's more, his own foundation is very good. Su Ming rarely goes to bars, but he has seen bartenders mixing drinks on TV. Nangong Wang's current skills may not be worse than those on TV. When he heard that he could manage an entire bar, even a small bar, Nangong Huang was overjoyed and exclaimed, "It's true. Of course it's true, but..." Su Ming drawled his voice, tilted his head, and looked at Nangong Huang carefully. "Brother-in-law, why are you staring at me like this?" Nangong Huang was heartbroken when Su Ming stared at him, and he swallowed. You're not gay, are you? Do you want to make unspoken rules for me?" "Unspoken rules, you big-headed ghost," Su Ming rolled his eyes and pointed at his colorful hair. "I tell you, work seriously and seriously. I will dye your head full of pheasant feathers back. If you have any earrings, take them off. In short, when you look like a human being, you will be allowed to run the bar." Even for a place like a bar that is full of fashion, Nangong Wang's look is too much. It is not fashion at all, but just like the haircut and perm of the 1990s, which is vulgar and tacky. "Brother-in-law told me earlier, it scared me." Nangong Huang took a long breath, touched his hair, and looked a little reluctant, and muttered, "Actually, the way I am now is pretty good." Su Ming ignored him, turned around and walked out of the kitchen, and said calmly, "It's up to you. You can either prepare yourself and run the bar, or you can continue as you are now, and I'll find you a new job as a chef."